Peña Esclusa in Spanish. Hoy, y voy a hablar despacio para el intérprete, estamos...
I'm going to talk slowly for the interpreter. Today we are fighting. We are doing conferences with a subject that's of great importance, which is the Sao Paulo Forum, under the Puebla group, that according to my experience, my personal experience, constitutes the biggest threat for our region. But also we're starting to see their tentacles in Europe because of their modus operandi, the way of acting. That's very efficient, by the way. Because of the coordinated and articulated work, their nexus with the drug trafficking, with the organized crime, and because of the international support they got. All of this was clear when we've already discussed in the elections of the past year in Peru, Honduras, Chile, and lastly Colombia, where I was a witness. I was there and saw the multiple techniques that that organization is using to reach power. Today we want to inaugurate this webinar to talk about this subject, and that's why I want to introduce you to a very good friend, a great academic, great researcher, my friend from Venezuela. Due to his situation, he is also from Colombia, Alejandro Peña Esclusa. He is the biggest expert in Latin America in the Sao Paulo, regarding the Sao Paulo Forum, because he's been studying this subject for 27 years. This is not a new subject, and he will talk about this. This is a deep organization that knows how they're going to fulfill their objectives. Alejandro wrote 4 books on the forum of the Sao Paulo Forum. The last one, we're going to see it, he will talk about it, is the cultural war of the Sao Paulo Forum. He will tell you that where you can find it is in Amazon, in Spanish, English, and it will be in Portuguese and in Italian. Because of what Alejandro has done in this fight, in speaking up against those governments that were elected thanks to the help of this forum, has cost him personally and his family jail and exilium. Right now, he is living in Italy after spending some time in Colombia. I don't want to speak any further. I'm going to let Alejandro speak so that people, the friends of the IDC, can know. We're going to be talking about like 25 minutes. Alejandro will talk to you about the Sao Paulo Forum. I think there's one open mic. Please, could you please turn off the mic? So I'm going to give the floor to Alejandro so that he can give us a summary of this forum that I think is very interesting. And right after, we'll start with questions and answers. We will be talking until 10 a.m. Colombia time, 5 in the evening, European time. So Alejandro, I give you the floor, and thanks for being here and all the members. Hello, President. I'm very happy and honored with this invitation. Like you said, I'm going to try and speak carefully so that the interpreters can translate.
I will speak slowly so the translation it will be comfortable for you. A ver, si le parece bien, Presidente, unas palabras.
Okay with you, Mr. President, I want to say an introduction. I just want to say that what I'm going to talk about here, you said 20-25 minutes. It's not the result of reading books. it's a result of being the witness. It's my personal experience after 27 years of fight against the Sao Paulo Forum. To start, our continent, Latin America, is in a historic situation in every sense. The Sao Paulo Forum is absorbing all our countries, and we make them what they want, a great producer of cocaine to export drugs to the whole world. Then we defeat the Sao Paulo Forum, and we make our continent what the John Paul II Pope said, a union of nations that defends democracy, family, universal values based on our Judeo-Christian culture. It may seem that, okay, it's going to be the first thing, not the second thing that the Pope said, because the Sao Paulo Forum is winning a lot of assets in Honduras, in Chile, in Colombia. Brazil is under the risk. What does this mean? Are they going to win? Not necessarily. I want to tell you also, all of you, according to my experience, this is not the first time that happened. So the continent was colored in red before. I don't know if you remember that in 2009, there were 14 presidents that belonged to the Sao Paulo Forum, that they were in office, governing at the same time, but they were being reduced until they were only 4. So you can think, just like once they were, this number reduced, maybe today they will reduce too. It's a question of time, a question of waiting. No. What I'm going to talk about today is that we are facing a Sao Paulo Forum that is being reboosted. It's a 2.0, the Sao Paulo Forum, reboosted. Why? First, because they changed their speech and they adopted the flags of progressism. We're going to talk about that. Second, because in these 30-something years since their existence, they've been becoming slowly into a group of criminal organizations, mainly linked to drug trafficking. What does this mean? That they have infinite resources to finance their activities. Those are the two main differences between the current and the past forum. Can they be defeated? Yes, but we have to fight in a different way that adapts to this new reality. I'm going to explain briefly how this happened so that we understand where we are today. This all started in the 4th of July, in 1984, 1998, there was no Berlin Wall, and the Lula reunited in Sao Paulo. They met in Sao Paulo because they had enough power to accommodate an organization like this one. So they met 68 political powers, met there from 22 countries, and they established this organization, a management, way of acting, annual meetings.
¿Qué pasó? Ellos ya no podían hablar de lucha de clases, de comunismo.
They could no longer talk about the fight of classes because the wall of Berlin, the Berlin Wall had fallen, and there was no Soviet Union. But they changed their speech. They adopted other flags like liberation, radical environmentalism. And since 1990 until 1998, they were surviving. It was a people of survivors. In 1995, Hugo Chavez, who made 2 coups d'etat in 2000, 1992, he travels to Cuba in 1994, and in 1995, he goes to Montevideo and registers in the forum. So that when Chavez reaches presidency, he wins in 1998, and he was already a member of the forum. And this forum won the lottery at this moment, because who was Chavez? I'm sorry to be this raw, but he was an Illuminati who wanted to be very important, who had the biggest amount of money of the region. So he started financing all of the members of the forum. And he did it in a way that was not responsible, because while the economy in Venezuela required money, he spent a high amount of money through briefcases in the forum, through agreements like the ones to finance Cuba, or through Petro-Caribbean that financed all Central America. This is how these people of the forum reached the presidency in their different countries. Had they not had this support from Chavez, they would have never reached this presidency. So these characters are supported by Chavism. That's what they were, and that's what they are. So that was the period when they were growing, this forum was growing. In 2009, they had 14 presidents in office. Back then, I wrote a book that was called The Sao Paulo Forum, A Continent Threat. You have a summary there that you can read. For those of you who don't have the book, I will get in touch with you through Mr. President Pastrana, because I think this book is no longer on sale, but I can get them for you. So what happened? I was in prison. Why was I in prison in 2010? Because I spent a long period in Honduras, during the period of the impeachment, and I explained the people of the country on TV, on the radio, that if Zelaya returns, something similar to what happened in Venezuela would happen. Honduras was going to be destroyed. Fortunately, the institutions worked, and he was out of the presidency, and then I got in prison. I am in prison because of the work I did. Why? I want you to see the following slide. It's very important that you know this. This is the plane flags of drug trafficking from the frontier in Venezuela. As you can see, there are many planes that go to Tahiti, others go to Nicaragua, others to Guatemala, but mainly Honduras. And why Honduras? Because it's precisely for a plane like the ones that appear there in the left part. It's the perfect area to equip the plane again, to put the petrol and to get ready for the big trip. So what was happening then and happens now, and the great interest of the Sao Paulo Forum in Honduras has just one name, and that name is drug trafficking. So we move on with my exposition, my speech. Chavez died in 2013, and Fidel Castro too in 2016. And in Venezuela, the forum wasn't able to do something with Chavez was already to be destroyed, and had turned the country into a totally Africanized country with millions of exiled people. So Venezuela became something that was giving a bad propaganda to the forum, very bad propaganda. So in the previous presidential elections in Colombia, the main reason to beat, not this last one that he won, in the previous, the main speech that they used against him was the Chavism. That not only happened in Colombia, it happens everywhere. The Sao Paulo Forum thought, okay, Chavez and Venezuela financed us, we exist thanks to them, to their money, but right now we have to change our speech. And they adopted several measures. One of them is that López Obrador, that made López Obrador win in Mexico. They organized a meeting in Puebla, and they found in 2019 the Puebla group, Grupo de Puebla. What is the Puebla group? It's the Sao Paulo Forum with another packaging, with another exterior state. It's without Daniel Ortega, without the Cubans, and without Nicolás Maduro on appearance, but they're still together in the same organization, but they appear separated towards the public. What other things do they do? Something very important. So, dear sir, men and women here listening, they decide, after experimenting in Venezuela, they create a special group, a special team to make fraud in elections. After 23 years, they did so many experiments. After 23 years of absolute control, they had different techniques for the fraud. I'm not going to talk about them here, but they have a group, a moving group that travels from one country to another to help their candidates through the fraud. In the beginning, it was only, like for instance, in December 2019 in Bolivia, when they detected the fraud from Evo Morales, with techniques developed these techniques were developed in Venezuela. They had these experts and these software that are only used in Latin America, also in Africa, but they can also be used in Africa or in any other place in the world. They developed a special team with a lot of skills. And the third measure of the forum to put distance from Chavism was to assume a progressive stage. What is progressive? Progressive tradition. It's like the cultural Marxism of stopping the Judeo-Christian values and disintegrate the territory through plurinationalism. It's to promote the dissolution of the institution, the disintegration of the territory, the promotion of the abort, the gender ideology. That is all assumed by the Sao Paulo Forum, the 2.0 Sao Paulo Forum. Gabriel Boric is an example. This is all in the speech of Gabriel Boric. So,
a new left wing. It was a very important measure that the Sao Paulo Forum took. I would like to show you on the screen my latest book, The Cultural War, and it contains all that I have just said about progressivism or cultural Marxism. It is a very simple book, easy to read, 20 short chapters with a pedagogical language, and I recommend you to read it and use it as a manual in order to study cultural Marxism. And as President Pastrana said, it is available in Spanish, in paper and in digital format, on Amazon, in Spanish, in Portuguese, in English, and by the end of next week, it will be available also in Italian. Going back to my exposition, these measures taken by the Sao Paulo Forum allowed it to go to the United States. I do not have the time to speak about the Frankfurt School, but you can find a chapter about it in my book, because it made a great work, a great negative work, in order to promote progressivism, genre ideology, etc. in the United States. So the Sao Paulo Forum collaborated with the United States by means of the progressive ideologies. The first time when I saw this relationship was in 2016. You can see here a poster that might surprise you. If you want to study it, it is on the official website of the Sao Paulo Forum, forodesaopaulo.org. It is an annual conference of the Sao Paulo Forum, the one from 2017 in Washington, D.C., in Maryland, Virginia. You can see the representatives of the workers' movement, Black Lives Matter. You can see there Black Lives Matter. This organization promoted the vandalic manifestations in the United States, and it is linked to the Sao Paulo Forum. You can go back to the presentation. And it is a very serious matter, because the Sao Paulo Forum managed to infiltrate in the United States. Then something even more important happened. The Europeans, I think, know very well the Democracy in Europe 2025 movement, DM25. This movement, the socialist movement or Marxist movement in Europe, together with the foundation of a powerful Democratic senator, Bernie Sanders, created the Progressive International in 2018, I think. You can look for it in internet and find their website. And if you look at their leaders, you will find people like Gustavo Petro, member of Puebla Group and Sao Paulo Forum, Rafael Correa, ex-president of Ecuador, Álvaro García Linera, member of Sao Paulo Forum and Puebla Group, and vice president of Evo Morales. Giorgio Jackson from Chile, who was head of staff of the President Gabriel Boric. And our friends from Spain will recognize Baltasar Garzón. So all these people are related to the Sao Paulo Forum. And maybe in the questions and answers session, we will talk more about it. Now, I am going to conclude soon. What I have presented until now cannot lead us to the conclusion that they cannot be defeated. No, it's not what I'm saying. I'm just explaining how they passed from the original Sao Paulo Forum to the Sao Paulo Forum reloaded with elections fraud, organized crime, drug trafficking, and progressive speech. But I think that what happened in Chile on the 4th of September, where Marxism was defeated, is an example for us, is the way to follow, because the constitutional proposal was rejected because it contained attacks on territorial integrity, family life, and Hispanic heritage. And it has not been able to break the Judeo-Christian cultural matrix present in our Ibero-American peoples. We have a culture of protecting the family, loving our country, certain universal values that all Ibero-Americans defend. And when this constitutional proposal tried to go against these values, it was rejected. That means that the Sao Paulo Forum has not managed to modify our values, our principle, and our tradition. There is where our power stands. This presentation is called How to Confront the Coordinated Actions of the Sao Paulo Forum Against Democracy. And this leads me to the last part of my presentation, how to confront all this. I think that all the democratic parties, from center, right wing, all the militancy must know what this cultural Marxism is. We have to study it because they have a great advantage on us on cultural war. We should study it in United States, in Latin America, in Europe. We should study cultural Marxism. I recommend my book as a manual to study this phenomenon, the cultural Marxism, the progressivism, a word that misleads us, progress. The second proposal is that it is necessary to form an international alliance that includes all democratic sectors. It is a great effort because some democratic entities are confronted among themselves. But we have to jointly confront the Sao Paulo Forum, because what we have before us is the greatest threat to the Western Hemisphere. We need to build partnership alliances. And my last proposal, necessary in my opinion, would be to create an observatory on the electoral fraud. We have to make up a team of experts that can prevent, detect, research on the fraud perpetrated and what are the new techniques to commit fraud in elections. We have to know the technical aspects of committing fraud, etc. I could say more, but I prefer to give more details and examples in the questions and answers sessions. These ideas of these progressive ideas are ideas to manipulate our peoples and get to the power, reach the power. The Sao Paulo Forum is only interested in organized crime and drug trafficking, which has financed more and more the Sao Paulo Forum members. This is happening now with the Sao Paulo Forum. The drug traffickers finance more and more its members. And the problem is that Latin America will become a production and export center of cocaine to the whole world. This is the great threat. I'm optimistic. I think that we can defeat them as long as we take urgent measures, and I am available to collaborate in whatever you may consider useful. Thank you very much for your patience, and thank you for the invitation, President Pastrana. I conclude here my intervention, and I give you the floor for any questions that you might have. Alejandro, I think this was very interesting, and I think our friends from Europe had the chance to know a little better this strategy, not only regional, as you said, Alejandro, but we can see its tentacles in Europe. I have already received some questions, and I think direct questions are the best. And the first one would be, and Alejandro, for us, for Latin America, we have knowledge here, but it would be good to explain it to our friends in Europe, Africa, and Asia. How Sao Paulo Forum is financed. One of the questions is, you spoke about the relationship about the Sao Paulo Forum and Puebla Group and the organized crime. Could you give some concrete examples on this issue, please? Yes. Let's take the case of Nicolás Maduro, member of the Sao Paulo Forum, and who has hosted many meetings of the forum, and he publicly confessed to be the promoter of the riots on all the continents, Nicolás Maduro is the chief of the Soles cartel, a drug trafficking organization, the biggest together with the FARC maybe. And the United States agency offered a reward of $15 million. They still work with him, and they keep the relationships with Nicolás Maduro. I want to share with you that FARC and the Liberation Army from Colombia are founding members of the forum, the Sao Paulo Forum, founding members of the forum. They were protected by the Workers' Party in 1990. You have these three examples. That work together. And another example of the Phoenix operation, they found some computers and hard disks where all the relationships in the organized crime organizations and the drug cartels with the Sao Paulo Forum members. So there are many proofs of this. You can read some of them in my book, The Sao Paulo Forum, A Continental Threat. It is available in English in PDF. I can send it to you, President.
Amigos invitados hoy, a veces no
friends invited today, sometimes we don't understand how, like you say, Alejandro, there is like a reward, a $50 million reward for anyone who gives information on Nicolás Maduro. So like the old Western movie style, so much money for anyone who gives information to the American government about on Nicolás Maduro. And now we understand that the special envoy for Latin America from the United States, sent by Biden, meets in the Miraflores Palace with Maduro. And it's this contradiction. So on one side, there is a reward for information, and on the other side, the government meets with this dictator. Another question, bearing in mind the support of external actors, like the President Rodriguez Zapatero to this forum that we all know about, possibly the biggest sponsor of this forum, what can we do? They ask, what can we do in Europe to neutralize this support? First thing, this information must be distributed. Because, for instance, in Spain, I had a few meetings with people, and they didn't know about the forum. They didn't know much about the forum with journalists. Even though there are 11 presidents in office that belong to this forum. We are talking about the most, the political endeavor that has most presidents in office. So the most important thing is that this forum needs to be known, that these links that they have with drug trafficking must be exposed. And so that Rodriguez Zapatero knows that he's helping a criminal organization. That's the first step. But I think we have to use international mechanisms that are used against drug traffickers, like for the Palermo problem. So the big problem that we have is that they still consider the managers of this forum, they still consider them political organizations and not a chief of a criminal organization. As long as that is not understood, there will still be errors. For instance, Maduro, either he is chief of the drug trafficking cartel, or he is the chief of a political party that you can dialogue with. So there has to be just one vision, and that requires the distribution of information about the forum. Is there anyone listening that has a question for Alejandro?
Luis,
¿Hay
alguna otra pregunta que haya llegado?
Are there any other questions that we've received? Let me check. President, through the chat, we haven't received any question yet.
Hay una petición del secretario general.
There's a request from the General Secretary, from the Secretary General.
Sí, muy buenas
Yes,
tardes,
good afternoon, Mr. Alejandro.
Yo tengo tenido cierta obsesión durante muchos años en la
I've been
internacional
obsessed
y desde el
for
Parlamento
many
Europeo
years
por una cuestión
regarding an issue that you talked about from the beginning, which is the union against this phenomenon. This is what we lack. The political democratic parties lack this. So, what countries do you think, because they always need a host country when they were born, when the Sao Paulo Forum was, because Castro had the ideas as always. He didn't have the money or the petrol, but he had the ideas. And then with Brazil in the Lula, and they offered all the opportunities. So who do you think that for us should assume the responsibility? To answer your question, we have to ask ourselves another question. How did Fidel Castro cause the union of the different managers or leaders of the forum? Castro had to go through a change himself. Let us remember that his behavior, the behavior of communist parties, was vertical. Stalinism was vertical, centralized, and they did what they would say. And anyone moving away from it were punished or murdered, like with Trotsky and others. So they had a centralized line. When the Berlin Wall fell, and even before, when that was coming, Fidel Castro decided that he had a centralized idea. He was formed in Stalinism. He realized that was no longer possible. Let's do an alliance between all the sectors, independently of their tendency. All of the fascists, Stalists, ecologists, environmentalists, all of those people, and let them give freedom of action, and let's not face, not fight against each other. So why was this? Because there was one common enemy. The communism was broken. Fukuyama said that capitalism beat communism, and they had to ally themselves. And that's what's happening. What's happening here is that we haven't realized that the enemy that we have before us is capable of destroying democracy. And this internal fight in central and in parties of the center of the right, they really show the lack of knowledge of the enemy. We don't know, we are not realizing that we have a monster before us. I think that's the first step. All political parties, democratic political parties, should be aware of this threat, because maybe that will make them get closer to each other, unite against this threat. That threat, I think it's still not clear enough or not present enough regarding the country where they could meet or how to do this with modern technology. That can be defined. The important thing is to create alliances and reduce the quarrels that we have in all of our countries. This is just this fight are only the lack of knowledge of the enemy that we are facing. If we were more aware of that, there would be an awful lot more union. Thank you, Alejandro. There are other questions arriving. The Africa coordinator is asking, Alejandro, do we have any knowledge that maybe your friends of the Sao Paulo Forum have contact with African countries? Have they opened these relationships? Of course they've opened these relationships. There are already open links. You can look in the forum website, foro-sao-paulo.org. Sorry, what leader or what movement do we have that right now? Out of memory, I cannot say, but I will look for them and I will let you know. There are meetings, even online, with African chiefs of state. I can't remember names right now, but they have done Zoom calls like this one, where African participants and Latin American participants have been talking. Why are these links existing? Because they need spaces to transport drugs towards the Europe. So those links exist, and I commit myself to forward them to you so that you can forward them to the person asking the question. like Alejandro said, the Nicolás Maduro cartel, I think more than sending the drugs to Honduras and Mexico, opened this new way to North Africa. There's where they opened this new trail. And this way they penetrated in the north of Africa, where it's easier to corrupt the government. And from the north of Africa, they go to Spain and to the Galician cartels and throughout Europe. So there is a subject there that's very important, that's the African subject that we know after talking with the African leaders, is that today the Islamic groups in the north of Africa are being financed today, set by the government. They are financed with resources from drug trafficking that come from the sale of cocaine. They're already reaching those countries. So there is an important element that we have to bear in mind. Here with Venezuela, there is a narco dictator, a drug dictator. So that's why we don't understand why the state, that when they have the cartel of de los Dolores, that the president of the Congress, the president of the Republic, where all the militaries are, why nothing happens? That's what we don't understand. I just saying this so that people understand, all those who are in this side of the world, we know about this menace, this threat. That's why with this webinar, we want to open the eyes of Europe and of Africa and of what may happen. Because I think this was not clear, but though you said it in your speech, what is the relationship between the Sao Paulo Forum and the Puebla group? Because people, because of some questions I'm receiving, they think there are two different things. So why don't you explain them a little to our friends present today? What is the relationship that we all know about between them? The Puebla group is a need of the Sao Paulo Forum to diversify itself after the disaster in Venezuela and other affairs like the violation of human rights. And it was drowning the Sao Paulo Forum. So they wanted to leave this radical facade because they no longer care what people say about them. And they said, okay, let's create some kind of consulate or chancellery, another group with another faith, with other rituals, with the presidents that are not accused of crimes against humanity or accused of drug trafficking. And they create the Puebla group like a franchise, but they're still, and they have very deep relationship with the forum. There was a novelty in this group. People from Spain was there, like Baltasar Garzón, who is the chief of legal affairs of the Puebla group. Also Rodríguez Zapatero, members of Podemos political party. So they are already including Europe, and they could not expand towards Spain or grow towards the United States when they had among their members people like Nicolás Maduro. So they decided, okay, let's create a facade, but they work together. What is the proof of that they work together? For instance, what happened yesterday? Yesterday in the United Nations, Gabriel Boric, the president of Chile, talked and publicly criticizes the violation in Nicaragua of the politicians and in Venezuela. That happened yesterday in the United Nations. And people think, wow, this man is different. Well, if he believes that, why not go to the international criminal law and talk about this? They only talk, but on practice, they do nothing to face this, to battle this. For instance, during the election campaign, the current president, Gustavo Petro, moved away from Maduro. And he's still in his Twitter account. A request to Maduro so that he would move forward, to move to a side, sorry. But when he reaches the presidency to Colombia, what does he do? He exchanges ambassadors, he gives them important companies that finances Maduro. He asks him to be a mediator in conversations, important decisions, and he starts to legitimate Maduro. So all the things he said against Maduro during the campaign was just a pose. It was appearance. So this happens with the Puebla group. It's a facade, a more elegant facade of the same organization. They work closely together, and it's the same organism. Very well. One last question, very fast, because we're running out of time. What do you think is the effect that, like it may happen in the United States election, of a change in government? The Democrats leave and the Republicans come. What effect do you think that may have in the region? And what effect that may have on the Forum and the Puebla group, that change in the American government? That change could help the democratic sectors to fight against the Sao Paulo Forum and the Puebla group, because that's what currently happening. The Puebla group and the Sao Paulo Forum affect the government through Progressive International. There is an example I want to put here, now that we're running out of time, that you know very well. In the last elections in Peru, what happened? To give you a specific situation, it's true that it seems like Pedro Castillo, who won, was a bit better in the negotiation with Fujimori, but they were counting the votes because there was a fraud. There were many elements of fraud. They had said that the software of the counting of the votes was affected. There was an investigation going on, and when this was when the president was not elected yet, the Progressive International, who had to call with Pedro Castillo, called their friends in the foundation, who called to the Department of State and said, okay, the Department of State will not take a position. If they don't make a decision, there is a danger of coup d'etat. And when there was they had not yet finished counting the votes, there was no longer a resolution. So the Department of State talked in favor of Pedro Castillo. So there was an influence of Progressive International and of the Democrat Party and the Department of State. So I hope that with a political change in the United States, this may change. However, from right now, we have to start talking about the influence of Progressive International and Puebla Group in the government of the United States, because not many people know about it.
¿Qué sucedió el fraude?
This is a fraud in Colombia. We found millions of ballots from the elections. The same thing happened in Peru. I was an observer in Peru. We had proof that there was fraud, but unfortunately, we did not make any decision to prevent that fraud. I think that, as you say, Alejandro, we talked about an electoral observatory, and I said that we are making a mistake today. We made an analysis of the software elections before the elections, but we do not make any analysis after the elections. After the elections, we need to study these softwares so that we can detect fraud and then prevent it the next time. I think there are many other questions, but for now, I would like to thank you, Alejandro, for your intervention. It was very interesting for the group to hear an expert like you who has studied for 27 years this forum, someone who suffered who was persecuted by this group. And I think it's very interesting for our European, African, Asian, and Latin American friends to see what our concerns on this issue are. Let's hope that in the United States, there will also be a change of government. I think that this will change also what happens in our region and will help us go forward. Thank you, Alejandro, for your participation. Thank you, the CDI staff, for having organized this webinar. Thank you to the technical team also. This is the first webinar. We will have a second one. We are already elaborating it with Luis. We will let you know about the dates and all the necessary details. If you are interested in the books promoted by Alejandro, please talk to Teresa or Luis, and we will send your messages to Alejandro and see how we can get his books. Thank you very much, Alejandro. Thank you very much, President, and thank you all for your attention, and I wish you all the best. Thank you all, and I hope we will see you again soon. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Alejandro. It was a great conference and very useful for all of us. Thank you.